Is Tuesday evening only. It is the Fantasy Cheat Sheet Live. Welcome into the after week 5, before week 6 edition, whatever you want to call it. So we got last night. Let's just get right into it. Before we get into last night's game, the only big piece of news that I want to bring up, double-edged sword. Matt Rule gets fired. Steve Wilk is going to be the temporary coach. And now Baker Mayfield is probably going to be out 2 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. What do you guys think real quick of this whole debacle in Carolina? I thought it was coming, but I thought it was going to be after the bye week. But that didn't happen. Darnold's still out. Jordan, why don't you kick us off on that?
It's kind of tough because I think, normally when a coach gets fired, the team will just play better just for morale situations. They'll play better for a couple of games. Don't know if it's sustainable. Obviously, Steve Wilkes was the head coach in Arizona for a year. It wasn't that didn't do a great job of, obviously, he wasn't really set up for much success out there. But, I'm expecting McCaffrey and DJ Moore to get a boost. PJ Walker or step in for a couple of weeks. I think at the very least he can get it to their best players. I think he'll do a little better job of that than Baker. So I'm expecting a little boost for C-Mac and DJ Moore.
What do you guys at?
I don't necessarily agree that anything will fix this. I think it's just kind of they need to just toss it, burn it all. I'm not impressed with this team. They need to liquidate the assets they have. They just need to push it on, move forward, find the coach. But I don't know. Obviously, they have DJ Moore. They have some good defensive pieces, but at the same time, it feels as if this team is nowhere near any sort of completion that would make them competitive. So that's where it's tough to really see a bright outlook going forward for Panthers fans.
Yeah, part of the problem that I have with this, I'm more on your side, Zach. I don't think there's nothing good, but the problem to me is a lot of the problem, besides Matt Rule with that offense, is Ben McAdoo, and he's still there. So as long as the person calling the plays, I don't know if you guys saw it, but a couple of weeks ago, Dan Orlovsky put something up was on ESPN, and he literally could call the play, run or pass with McCaffrey just in the way he was lined up with Baker. And he did it for he said he watched the whole game and it was almost every play but one. He was able to say run or pass depending on the formation, just the way he was lined up. I think it's a clean sweep. I agree with you, Zach. They do have DJ Moore. They got CMC. We saw this wild rumor that Buffalo was talking to them about CMC. I don't know if that's true. I don't think they're going to get rid of CMC, but DJ Moore's not happy there. They need to liquidate some assets and get some more back. If they have to draft a QB, they've already given up a bunch of stuff to get. I saw the list of all the picks they gave up to get Corral, Baker, and Darnold. So they need to liquidate assets to get some of those assets back while you have 2 drafts coming up.
Yeah, it's no hope for them this season, but I was just, from a strictly fantasy standpoint, if you're going to keep those guys, I think that they can get a little boost from Walker. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I do like Walker. I'm going to have to start him in one league possibly because the bye week's coming up, but hopefully I don't have to. All right, so last night's game, 30-29, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Las Vegas Raiders. Came back from a 17-point deficit. It's the second time the Raiders have given up a 17-point lead. The first time was against Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. So, Zach, we're going to get right into it. What is your big takeaway from this game?
My big takeaway is just that I want to stay completely away from every Kansas City weapon outside of Travis Kelce. Just the Chiefs in general for fantasy. If I don't have Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce, I'm out. Any Juju shares, MVS, you name it, I'm going to just sell them for what I can get. And there's a few offenses like that. In redraft, I feel the same way about Green Bay, and there's also other ones. But my big Monday takeaway was just that sentiment, specifically with Kansas City, but also the rest of those offenses that through this amount of weeks haven't been impressed.
Yeah. So I got a follow-up question for you real quick, Zach, before we go to Jordan. What is your opinion? Because I'm curious what it is because I'm kind of on the fence. What is your opinion on CEH? Because he's getting the points, but he's getting some of the points, but he's not getting the opportunities. He's just capitalizing on what he's getting.
I wouldn't pay any sort of premium or normal running back price relative to what his final scores have been. I wouldn't be willing to pay that. If I'm trying to make a move, get him for a push, I might take that, but it's going to be cheap, especially in Dynasty. I mean, I'm not going to pay a normal running back price at all because I don't think it is likely to last all year. I don't think it's likely to last past this year either. So I'm not willing to pay you any sort of assets that would say, hey, this is my running back for 2-3 years. I don't see that.
We're on the
What
same
about you
page.
guys?
Jordan, yeah. What do you think about the Chiefs' offensive weapons?
Same. Luckily for me, I didn't have any Juju, didn't have any MVS to begin with. Although I wasn't opposed to it in summertime, but I mean, it just worked out. I didn't get it. So I don't want any of those guys. Not going to go trading for them. As far as CEH goes, I remember after week 1, we all talked about trying to sell him as fast as you could because, that production wasn't sustainable. And he's the one thing about the Chiefs offense is that they're going to be in the red zone. He's going to have a running back is going to be on the field in the red zone when they have chances to score. You just don't know if that's going to be him or not. McKinnon is getting a lot of that work. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco is eating into the work as well. So I wouldn't be trying to, sell him for pennies on the dollar if I had him. I think you could still probably you could fool somebody into getting decent value for him if he comes out next week against the Bills and scores. But, I wouldn't be trying to buy him either.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I want to follow up on CEH is, I mean, he had 12 touches last night for what they're supposedly wanted to use him for when they drafted him. 9 carries and 3 receptions is not enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not enough to rely on or depend on long term.
Exactly.
But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. No, so Jordan, I know you have a takeaway. I agree with your takeaway, but go with it.
It's like we all drew it up in the summertime that after the first 5 weeks, Josh Jacobs would be a top 4 running back. He would be outscoring Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. It's like we all thought it would be this way. But it's just crazy. Like I don't have any shares of Josh Jacobs in any league. I was shying away from it. I thought Zamir White would eat into his work and all the other guys. Josh McDaniels always uses 100 running backs, Brandon Bolden and guys like that. But it's been Josh Jacobs, and he's delivered, man. I mean, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so he had something to prove. He's out here proving it, running through guys. Last night he ran through a bunch of guys, I think he'll keep this up. I don't see why he couldn't. I mean, he's been successful. The only thing that will stop him at this point is injury. And since they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, they probably just run him into the ground and let him walk. So, it's one of those things where you can count on him putting up massive production with this offense.
They're going to try and set it up where someone else can pay the money.
Yep.
Get what they can this year. But, I mean, also – I'm curious to see what happens with, some potential Raider trades. Because as of right now, that was my other takeaway was just, hey, they have assets like Jacobs where he's walking anyway after this year. What happens if they're like 1-6? If it's looking like, hey, we're not making the playoffs, is someone like Jacobs, could he potentially be dished to a different team for the second half of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that getting assets back.
Yeah. They gave up so much.
So yeah, go ahead, Jordan. No, go ahead.
They gave up so much for Adams. I feel like they probably would be trying to recruit some if things got off the rails. I mean, coming out of the bye, they'll have to start winning quickly before they decide to get in sell mode.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully Adams isn't suspended because that could really affect a lot too.
The Wallace injury. Well, like it's not looking good for them right now. My brother's a Raiders fan. I feel for him. It's tough. It's tough.
Okay,
Them
so
in
for
Denver.
Denver. Yeah. Oh yeah, Denver. Yeah, living in Denver. Yeah.
Or I was just gonna say both those fan bases had their hopes so high coming into this season, and they're both just so miserable right now.
We
Oh,
thought that would be the best division in football. Oh, I know I did. I thought that would be the best division in football, hands down, and it hasn't been. The
No, I
Chargers have been
think
disappointing. The Chargers have been disappointing. The Broncos have been disappointing, and the Raiders have been disappointing. So,
but here I completely get that part. But like I was looking at it this morning, and what's crazy is the Raiders have already played all three teams in the division. So so two of their losses are against division foes. We could have seen that coming. It's just
right.
the way they played in the beginning. If they played every game like they did last night, which I'm going to get into in a second, then they'd be better. So for my takeaway, I'm going on a little bit of a Kansas City Chief rant right now. Yes, we won the game. Two things. One, we cannot keep starting games off this freaking slow and expect us to win every freaking week. This week we played Buffalo, and if we come out slow like that against Buffalo, we are freaking done for. Dunskies, adios amigo. But the other thing, I know not every team has a Devonta Adams, okay? However, you cannot have your main 5 DBs, 3 of them be rookies, and try to guard Devonta Adams one-on-one with a rookie. They got to figure something out, helping out, so that when you do go against the Stephon Diggs, when Keenan Allen's healthy, whoever we go against that's got a good receiver, I mean, Devontae's in the top 3 or 4. If our secondary, and I said that from the very beginning of the season, if our secondary can't get their SHIT together, we're not going to make it very far in the playoffs. And I have a feeling that's what I think is going to be our Achilles heel game in and game out. We can get the pass rush. We can get to the quarterback when it's not roughing the passer. Sorry. But other than that, we have to do something on the back end. Otherwise, that's how we're going to lose games in critical situations.
Go ahead, Zach.
One thing I just keep thinking about with this whole situation is the fact of, hey, I'm not going to overreact once again. As Aaron Rodgers once said, RELAX, relax. Like when the Packers shit the bed against the Giants, I had so many buddies reaching out saying, "Hey, thought you guys were good," and I'm like, "Yeah, they look like shit right now. They look lazy." But there's a lot of teams that look that way, and it's week 5. Obviously you want to see things building in the right direction, especially around the young guys. But hey, if it's not right now, but it's 5 weeks into their rookie year, you want to see the flashes of promise.
No, I get that, but my point is, our Achilles heel this year has been the secondary. I just need to see the secondary in general, and they need to help out the rookies. I get we only have rookies, but they're not doing anything to me to help them out.
Yeah, and that's where it'll get tricky though too at this point in the year, unless you have like the Odell Beckham version at corner, the injured free agent
that comes in late. Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying with the rant. I just can't believe how weird of a season it's been to this point.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone was expecting this.
No, I like I said, I didn't expect Josh Jacobs to be better than Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry. It's just Geno Smith to be doing what he's doing, which we'll talk a little bit.
We'll talk about later. Yeah.
So,
but like Henry right now is RB24.
Michael Carter, even with Breece Hall doing so much, is running back 30 and just standard scoring.
Yep. It's just crazy.
23 in PPR. Yeah. No, there's so many. Or just, AJ Dillon. Awful.
Awful.
I'm not even going to. I got 2 Packers fans, and I have a lot of AJ Dillon, so I think
I have a lot of AJ Dillon too.
We are all on the same page on that for different reasons. Yes. So we all had fantasy matchups that went good or bad. Zach, what is your waiver wire or your start sit regret? What do you want to talk about?
I lost by a whopping 5.88 points. 153.6 to 147.7. There's other decimals in there. They went. But anyway, I just set a few guys. I had 4 different options. Do any of them differently, I win. I got that many points on the bench. But nope, I managed to pick, like, oh, Montgomery, is he going to be hurt? Is he going to play? What's going on there? Oh, maybe they're giving more of the workload to Khalil Herbert. He was
That's
good
what
while
I
Monty
thought.
was out. Oh,
Yeah,
I'll just put Romeo Dobbs in. He's been getting a high workload. Oh, guess what? David just got a bunch of fantasy points while Romeo didn't do shit for me. Or, oh, Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, the guy with the fucking noodle-armed quarterback that they paid $250 million. Oh, let me just slide him in there. Oh, look, even Cole Kmet would have given me enough instead. The guy who hasn't done anything at tight. Oh, and Troutman. There's just so many names on my bench where I'm like, what the hell am I? Like, I understand what I was doing, but okay. And the Dylan getting 30% of snaps, I understand, but it's not even about that. Like, he was only getting 50s before, but he's just not really doing much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just those 2-3 yard runs. He's good at them, but it's nothing that you want for fantasy.
And aside from 2 big games, Aaron Jones has been fairly disappointing as well. Just the work that I thought he would get in the receiving game is not what's actually happening. It's the running back usage is not what I thought it would be when you think about the sample size that we had before when Devonta Adams was out. It's just not the same at all. And I thought with the receivers having the problems that they were having at the beginning that he would lean on the running backs, but it just hasn't worked like that.
And there's so many teams this year that I don't want to put faith into any of their weapons because I don't know if it'll happen or when, let alone to who. And that's Kansas City and Green Bay are the prime examples with those like weird wide receiver cores and all that. But there's plenty of other teams. I mean, Denver, Judy or Sutton. Obviously, Sutton's been fairly good, but Javonte's out for the year, and I don't.
Then
This
there's teams
fantasy year
like,
has just been such a pain in the ass.
Then there's teams like Chicago who just don't have a weapon in general.
Yeah.
Hey, Mooney looked good.
Yeah.
I'm not buying into that. I can't.
All right, Jordan. What is your regret?
Well, it's unfortunate that it happened this way, but I mean, I started Nyheim Hines in the league over Deontay Johnson. I thought Hines when Jonathan Taylor was out. Obviously Hines had he had 3 targets, or he had 2 touches and a target in the first 3 snaps of the game before he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That was unfortunate. But I mean, it is what it is. Ended up losing because of that. And any league where I had AJ Dillon starting was just a disappointment. That was a mistake on my part as well. So, the unfortunate injury to Nyheim Hines kind of tanked the team I had. But that was about it. For the most part, I actually had a pretty good week outside of that terrible decision. What about you, Mike?
All right. So I have a situation worse than Zach's point was. I lost 140.72 to 139.68.
So
just over a point.
Just over a point. So my 2 running backs and my flex were Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, and I started Zeke. I was going back and forth. Zeke is the one that I shouldn't have started. The 2 that I was going to, and Zeke got, let's see where he's at. Zeke got 7.8. The 2 players that I could have started over him, I thought this was going to be the Breece Hall week, and it was, but the other one I didn't think was going to eat like you were talking about. I had Michael Carter, and I had Alan Lazard. And either way, I would have been better off and I would have won.
Yeah.
The other reason I lost, and this isn't really a start sit, but it was just a bad pickup, was I had the Browns defense. They were projected to get like 2.7 or 2.8. I had been writing them since like week 2. I dropped them, but in this league, because this is a work league, people like to keep backups of every goddamn position, even if you don't freaking need it. So instead of having in a 12-man league a whole bunch of defenses on the bench or on the waiver,
Nothing.
there was only like 8 or 9 total. So I figured it was going to be a decent scoring game. The one I was trying to get Minnesota's, someone already picked them up. I figured the Chiefs would at least get a couple turnovers and a couple sacks, but because whatever, they got me a goose egg. And I lost by that. So I had the Zeke and the goose egg. That's all I got to say about that. You can understand, trust me, I'd rather have the win in this league. Like, this work league is fun, but like it's not as competitive as some of my other leagues. So me getting the win for my actual team, I was more important. However, when I went back to it this morning and was going, okay, how did I lose? And I saw the Zeke and I saw the Carter and Lazard, and then I realized it was a goose egg on the Chiefs. You can imagine I was not very happy.
Rightfully so, my friend. Rightfully so.
Yeah. But I mean, I got to take the win, and now we're going against Buffalo, so we'll see what. I'm definitely dropping our defense.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. Make sure you get rid of them for.
For no, that defense is already it's already been dropped. It's already been dropped.
Yeah.
All right. So we always like to just talk about random stuff in the fantasy world that we like, that each of us have. Zach, I know you got something you want to bring up. Go ahead.
Devonta Smith, the NFC East, often referenced as the NFC least, looks really good, but I just can't get enough of Devonta Smith. I was big on him his rookie year. I know a lot of people viewed it as a bad year. I never really understood that. It was really looking at it through the lens of, hey, was he Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson? And guess what? When you hold up any young wide receiver to that standard, they're going to look underwhelming. But for a first-year guy in the league, he looked pretty solid, and I love seeing him produce like this consistently. I'm really excited for what I'm seeing right now. I mean, he had another big game this past week. I believe I want to say it was 11 targets. I
got it. I can get it right here.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Cool.
It was 10 receptions for 11 targets. It was only 87 yards, no touchdowns. But in a PPR scoring league, that's still 21.2 fantasy points. And just the fact that he's getting targeted 11 times, I mean, 3 out of 5, he's been targeted 7+. 2 of those, 11 and 12 targets. So, A.J. Brown coming in. Yeah, A.J. Brown's the number 1, but it also frees up more opportunity for Devonta. And I think that was Devonta's biggest issue last year, was solely the fact that, hey, I don't have anyone else bringing any of the attention away from me. Because it was what Quez Watkins and just a bunch of guys like that. That's not going to do anything to help him.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
I love seeing what he's doing. I mean, yeah, he's in the league I'm looking at. He was wide receiver 22 in PPR so far this year. He's looking real solid. What are your guys' thoughts on Devonta?
Yeah, I was worried about him after week 1. I think it was 1 target he had, or 0 targets in that game, no catches. I was worried about it, but that also, I was also worried about Jalen Hurts at that time. But as he has shown his progression, obviously he's been able to incorporate Smith into the offense. I'm sure they made it a point to get him involved. The Cardinals typically do a good job of not taking out completely, but doing a good job on number 1s for teams. So that gave Smith an opportunity to play well this weekend. I like him moving forward. As far as the Eagles in general in the passing game, I worry about touchdowns, passing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, because he's had I think 2 or 3 games this year where he's ran for touchdowns, but he hasn't thrown any. So I kind of worry about that. But as far as Smith getting the targets and producing with those targets, I definitely think that'll continue moving forward.
So I'm not as high on him as you are, Zach. However, so last year I was down on him partly because I didn't have him as high as some people did coming out of the draft. And last year I do think he got a bad rap. I agree with you on that. He got looked at with that offense. That passing offense wasn't very good. They didn't have anyone to take the eye off him. They didn't know if they were throwing it to Zach Ertz or Goddard. And then when Zach left, they were kind of miscombobulated, like kind of what Jordan's saying, even than last year where Ertz was getting the running but wasn't throwing it a lot. Now they got A.J. Brown. I do like the future for Devonta. I like him a lot better in Dynasty than I do redraft. But looking forward, I do see his stock rising this season. And if he can keep what he was doing this week, and even if it drops off a little bit, but stays in like to say the 7 catch for 9, something like that, I'd still take that over. And with all the injuries we're having, the crazy off, like you said, like we said earlier, this league is very wonky right now with guys not performing, guys performing, with bye weeks and injuries coming up, and you got a couple bye weeks where you have 6 teams on bye. I mean, I have him in SFB, and I had him playing, so he's just that type of guy that you can't rule out. Even if you're down on him, you still can't rule him out. The only downside is, like Jordan said, that passing offense, when it gets down to the red zone, scares me because they go to the run game so much. But other than that, I like Devonta Smith more than I did last year.
No, I get it. I mean, it's tough with Devonta. It'll take time to really be what he could be. I agree with you on that sentiment. But, obviously Devonta, Smith, I think we wanted to talk about another Mr. Smith too. Jordan, is that right?
Yes. Mr. Gino, they wrote me off, but I didn't write back Smith. I guess 5 weeks into the season, we can say that Pete Carroll knew what he was doing. Russ looks almost finished. Almost finished. I'm not going to say he's completely toast, but I think he's
on the way down.
Yes. And Gino, I remember after the Monday night game, we came in on the show and I talked about, man, this offense is better than I thought it would be. And for fantasy purposes, those guys could be, but it's even better than I thought. It's even better than they were on Monday night. Gino is actually making plays with his arm. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are balling. Like, Gino is just better than Russ at this point. I didn't think I would be saying this at any point before Russell Wilson retired, but it looks like there was a reason why Russ wasn't cooking in Seattle, because he can't cook anymore. It seems. I mean, Gino has 5 more touchdown passes this year, almost about 100 more yards passing. Gino is like a top 10 quarterback so far this season, and Russ is struggling, not scoring touchdowns on Thursday night against the Colts. So I never thought I'd be saying this, but Gino is better, and the Seahawks were right. The Broncos might have got fleeced for $250 million.
All right, so he is QB7 so far this season. That's crazy to me. The one thing that I heard, and I actually thought about this, and I agree with everything you're saying. Gino, I was joking around calling him Gino Lock at the beginning of the season. Like, he's definitely taken that and thrown it away. I'll call him Geno Smith. He deserves it. He's doing good. That team's doing good. I am so happy they're getting freaking Tyler Lockett involved. That makes me so happy. But the one thing I want to bring up is, did they see that Russell was declining? Or the question I'm posing is, was Pete Carroll part of the reason that Russell was actually doing so good the last couple seasons? Was it actually Seattle and not Russ himself last year when he was starting? Because remember how he got hurt and then he came back. He was a little rusty when he got the finger surgery, and then he started doing good. Was that Russ or was that the offense?
That's a good question. I think that they did. It seems now, looking back, obviously 2020 hindsight, but it seems like they were doing their best to protect him because they knew his limitations. So yeah, I didn't think so at the time. I just thought that he was just a very good quarterback, and that he was shining despite them holding him back. But maybe you are right, and that they were holding him back. And Russ had me fooled like he had the Broncos fooled as well.
What do you think, Zach?
I don't know. I'm not too worried about Russ yet. I think it's just a bad setup. He's having shoulder injuries. He's dealing with that while he's got this brand new head coach. I also don't think Hackett's as bad as he's been to this point. I'm going to assume that it'll even out, and same with Russ. What, you just think Hackett is just 5 weeks of head coaching experience ever, and we already know for certain that
No,
he's
I'm
just
not
not
saying.
it?
No, I'm not saying he can't be a good coach, but I'm not sure if you can wait around. Like if you this, I mean, I commend them for hiring somebody else to take over some of those important decision making situations at the end of games. But just think somebody having to do that. Like think about if Mike Tomlin went and hired somebody to like make those type of decisions. People would be on his behind like every week. But like I commend him for doing that. That takes humility, being humble, and doing all that. But like when you have a quarterback like Russ and a team that's built to win now, I don't know if you can stand to play around with a coach that's trying to find his footing and making some of these decisions that Hackett is making. Like I don't know how much longer of a leash he should have. I mean, we've seen coaches get fired after 1 year in situations where they wasn't even set up to win. This guy has everything he needs to win, and they're not doing it. So I don't know if Hackett is long for Denver.
The only thing that I understand where you're coming from. I agree with. I don't like his clock management, but I think it's that same situation. I mean, you guys saw it with your own two eyes. I think it's the same exact situation, and I think part of this might be the reason. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is part of the reason Zach feels the same way he does. I think it's RELAX in the sense of when LaFleur first got there to Green Bay, Rodgers had to there was that time period, the same thing where he was struggling or whatever. I think that is the exact same thing. And that's why I think Russell will be okay, because I think he's so getting used to such a new offense, such a new system with never, all these years of being in the same exact thing. I think that's what the issue is. I don't know if I don't think they're going to let Hackett go this year, but I could see it being a 2-year short leash. But is that justified? Maybe, maybe not. But I think the Broncos have bigger problems than just Russell's. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's not just Russ. Russ needs to perform, but there's a lot bigger issues than Russ.
Yeah, offensive line
And
sucks for one, but yeah.
yeah, no, the offensive line's terrible. But one thing I do find funny with it too is when I watch the Broncos and some of what Hackett's doing, he's obviously just made some bad decisions and he's owned up to them in the press conferences. But
Yeah.
what I find interesting about it too is, I feel as if maybe he's almost been so used to having Aaron Rodgers be his quarterback, where now when he's making these calls, he's thinking and treating Russ as A-Rod. And I get Russ was really good at one point. He hasn't been that guy in a couple of years. Yes, he's dealt with injuries, but at the same time, the Russ we know as of late is clearly nothing like Aaron Rodgers, and I think that's kind of where some of the issue is as well.
So I have a question for both of you guys. I don't think Russ is going to be the worst quarterback in the league or anything. But I guess when we say Russ is going to be okay, what are your expectations for him being okay? What does that look like? Because it's not going to be Russ in the MVP discussion. It doesn't seem. Maybe it gets to that point later this year. But I guess what are your expectations for him getting right in the Broncos? I guess at peak performance, what does that look like to you guys at this point compared to what we thought it would be at the beginning of the season?
Well, I'll say this right off. I never thought he'd be in the MVP discussion.
I thought the Broncos and Raiders were battling for 3rd and 4th in the division.
I thought the Broncos were. I thought the Broncos were going to be in 3rd. I thought he would have a better fantasy season. But I never thought that he would be that high in the discussion of being in the top quarterbacks this year. So for me, a successful season for him was being in 8 to 12 for fantasy.
QB 8 to 12,
yeah. That's what I thought at the beginning of the year. Now,
I think he can still get there.
He can still get there, but it's still going to be more of a struggle.
So do you guys think Geno will be better than him for the rest of the season? I'm not talking about next year. Just for the rest of this season, would you take Geno over Russ?
No,
can't do it.
I just have to assume it's I don't love Russ. My expectations aren't high, but just what I think that offense ends up turning into, even with the Devonta injury and all of that, it'll still be higher than what Geno is. Because there's going to be, they'll come back to their medians, both of them. Geno will come a little bit back to earth. I don't think he's just clearly backup level. I think he's shown that he can be a QB, at least a overqualified backup or, a bottom tier starter, but consistent. And Russ, I think he's one little tier above that, but I think they'll both kind of work their way back, one high and drop down, one low coming back up. But yeah, I don't really want either of them in fantasy or as my QB.
I'm starting Geno in one league as super flex, but I'm okay with that. I mean, depending,
that's a bye week replacement, definitely. I have Jalen Hurts, so I'm picking up Geno for next week. So, I'll roll with that.
I mean, I'm in a league where it's a 14-team super flex, so you're trying
I'm in a 14-team super flex with Jared Goff on a bye week, so now I'm only Daniel Jones, but we're a proud 3-2 with the old Jared Goff Daniel Jones combo.
Hey, I'm happy about that. Hey, I got a Carson Wentz Matt Ryan combo, and I'm 3-2.
The rest of y'all teams must be really good.
Yeah, I've got Kittle, Waller, Andrews, all three of them in a tight end premium.
Okay, that's why I was like, got to be tight end premium.
And that one, it's in mine. It's not tight end premium, but I got Chubb, Diggs, and Cup.
Oh yeah.
And I have Pittman. I have Pittman, Devonta Smith, Mooney, Montgomery, Christian Watson.
Of course.
Yeah, Michael Carter, Travis Etienne. I've got all the running backs, everything except quarterbacks. Who needs those anyway, right?
Yeah.
Once Jordan Love's the starter, I'll be good to go.
Oh God. Okay.
That's another conversation for another day.
So we've talked about wide receiver and we've talked about quarterback. Now it's my time to bring up two guys that I thought were going to be something at the beginning of the season and they quite weren't, but they're on their way back. And that is Travis Etienne and Ramandre Stevenson. Travis Etienne has finally gotten the workload back. I got it right here. He had 13 total touches. James Robinson had 12 total touches. But if you look at week 2 and week 3, James Robinson had 25 and 20. And Etienne had 12 and 14. He's finally coming back. They had the same amount of touches last week. They both had 8 in the game against Philly in week 4. So in week 5, he had 10 carries for 71 yards, 3 catches for 43. Robinson had 10 carries for 27 yards. To me, I think that it's still going to be a split. I can't think of it. Peterson has always liked splitting running backs, even when he was in Philadelphia. We saw it all the time. I never thought this was going to be like a workhorse running back for Etienne, but I thought Etienne would be on the high side of the split. I thought it'd be like 65-35. That's what I was hoping. and I was hoping he was going to get the passing work. He finally is. On the other one, Ramandre Stevenson, I understand that Damien Harris is kind of dinged up and he's probably not going to play for a little bit. But even then, I think Ramandre was eating into that workload. As an example, in 2022 so far, Ramandre ran 6 routes per game. Damien Harris ran 7.4 routes per game. This season so far, Damien has ran 8.2 routes per game. Ramandre is running 15.2. The reason I bring that up is that was part of the knock on Ramandre, is people didn't think that they were going to use Ramandre in the passing game, and that was why Damien was going to sustain being the back. It's Damien's contract year. I don't know if he'll be there next year. We all know how New England likes to use their running backs and just cycle. To me, Ramandre is going to be – I think he's going to end up being an RB1 the rest of the season. Like between 12 and 14 the rest of the season. I just think that him and Etienne are both young guys that can, sustain that production for the rest of the season if they get the right workload. The one thing I do want to bring up, and it has nothing to do with them, but I saw it in my research and I just found it kind of funny. And since we're talking running backs, the top rushers in goal-to-goal situations. So the number one most attempts, Joe Mixon has 12 attempts. Jamal Williams has 11. Jalen Hurts, 10. Nick Chubb is 5th with 7. What's funny is Joe Mixon has 0 touchdowns.
Well, I guess from inside the 5 or
just goal to go.
Yeah.
But he has the most rushes. He has 12 attempts, no touchdowns. Jamal has 11 for 4. Jalen 10 for 5 touchdowns, and Nick Chubb 7 for 3. I just thought that was an interesting stat, because one of the things Zach was there when I brought this up. When we were doing the devil's advocate, Zach, that was my exact thing about Eckler, is I thought he was so high productive, and I just didn't see that sustaining. On the reverse, I don't see Mixon sustaining that low of production. He'll get his, but it scares me that he's not getting into the end zone. Do you guys have any thoughts about anything I said? Go ahead, Zach.
I agree on that. I mean, that same sentiment you were just expressing is the same way I felt about James Conner last year going into this year, where I didn't see that maintaining the same way you were just talking about. But no, I love all of what you're talking about with Travis Etienne and with Mr. Stevenson. I mean, ironically enough, one of my Devi Dynasty leagues, my main 3 running backs are Travis Etienne, Ramandre Stevenson, and James Robinson. So I've got both of the Jacksonville guys in 2 of the slots, and then I put Stevenson into one of the flex slots. And then, hey, I can't lose on the ground game of Jacksonville, and Ramandre is finally getting his workload. No, I mean, Ramandre I think everyone's kind of known that he's the more talented back, but it's about kind of earning those reps. I know that's kind of the New England way, and they still really like to feed other mouths, but I mean, 90% is a high snap percentage for any running back in New England. So that speaks volumes to where he should be going forward.
Yeah. Ramandre, he had some explosive plays, more than Damien Harris. He's more explosive runner. We thought that he would, going into the season, it was Damien or Ramandre. And when James White retired, it definitely opened up opportunities for both of those guys. And Damien Harris getting hurt kind of opens up the door even more. And if Ramandre performs well, I think it'll kind of not completely shut the door for Harris, but I think when Harris comes back, he'll be RB2 on the depth chart, I think, and Ramandre will kind of be the top guy in the backfield. And I'm sure they'll still use some pass catcher running back, whether it's Pierre Strong or whether it's Ty Montgomery if and when he comes back. But for the most part, I think it's Ramandre's backfield to lose.
And I hope you're right. So we are done with that. Now, I know that someone wants to talk about buying people low or selling people high. And I want to hear this because I got a trade in my inbox while we were sitting here talking. So why don't you go, Zach?
It is the time. This is the week. Do it now. Do it fast. Be aggressive. Be on the hunt. You smell blood, circle in the water. Take all that you can get for the guy and run. Or, hey, oh, he's on the Colts and they've sucked. Or, oh, hey, guess what? I need Matt Ryan. Or I want a third QB and Matt Ryan has sucked. Hey, let me just pay stupid low because he's been miserable and he's old. Oh, sweet. Now I just got a great third guy in my super flex, just for bye weeks or injuries. But, if he comes back to that median, we're feeling good. I mean, otherwise, Devin Duvernay, someone I've been really happy about all year. That's someone where I'm going to sell him as the wide receiver 24. I've been praising him for a while. He's been consistent, but I don't want to find out what happens when, maybe another guy steps up or they draft someone next year. Let me sell now because I'm not really losing that much production anyway. He hasn't had truly crazy high scoring weeks, just relatively consistent at just over double digits. So I'm just trying to pinpoint the guys that have kind of overproduced or underproduced and let me sell, let me buy, but I'm doing it right now and I'm sending a shit ton of trade offers.
What do you think?
What do you got
Jordan?
for me, Mac?
Yeah, what do you think,
Go
Jordan?
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with it. It's hard. Like some leagues, I mean, I guess it depends on your leagues, but I got a couple of guys that I wish I could get rid of, man. I can't. I might end up just dropping them because it's so hard to to trade certain guys. But yeah, I definitely think it's time to. You kind of know what you have. You kind of know what you don't at this point in the season. So you should be trying to make deals. But like for the most part, for me, like I told you guys before off air, it's like I'm stuck in leagues where there's no action going on. So like I'm basically just like, oh, I drafted this team. That's what I got. Unless I drop
Make a move.
or add.
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, for instance, like I've already put CEH on the block in one league. Just for shits and giggles. I've had him off and on the block all year. But this is that 2 or 3 week, this is that 2-week window that like you're finally seeing what people are, and I think that's where you're going, Zach. You're finally seeing people are, and it's that turn where
like I've been saying this whole show is relax, there's still plenty of time. And that's where I'm going to trust the guys that have been consistent and productive year after year in their careers over the guys that, haven't really done it consistently ever. So therefore I'm going to try and sell high before, they might come crashing back to earth. Yeah. Just trying to be strategic, trying to always, maximize my assets. It's tricky. I mean, I see Jamie over here in the chat saying, what running back can I target to sell Curtis Samuel? That's a little bit of an aggressive thought. I don't really see you being able to get running backs of any production really for Curtis Samuel. I mean, Curtis Samuel has been good. He's someone I've been high on, but I also don't think he's really been producing for a long enough sample size to really be talking running backs in return. What are your guys' thoughts there?
What if the James Robinson manager was pissed over the last couple of bad games? Do you think Curtis Samuel for James Robinson could happen? Samuel's been more consistent.
If I could get James Robinson for Curtis Samuel, I would trade James. I'd take that trade every time. Because, I mean, for me, it's about positional need. I do like Etienne more than Robinson, but I think there's an opportunity for both of them to get fed. And I don't necessarily want to be stuck in a realm. I can always find wide receivers. I can't always find running backs. So that's Samuel for Stevens. If you get someone to give you Ramandre Stevenson for Curtis Samuel,
go ahead,
hit
the button now.
Don't even put it in the just hit accept.
Jamie, go offer both of those trades right now.
Yeah. Especially the Stevenson. Offer that one, and
The
then if they hit
Stevenson.
decline
Yeah,
right away like they
Stevenson.
should, then maybe try for James. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's that pipe dream.
for sure. So we've already talked about Geno Smith, but Jordan wants to keep talking about those Seattle Seahawks. Go ahead, Jordan.
I'm loving the Seahawks offense, man. But I think a guy that if he's available in your league, definitely should be the number one priority is Ken Walker. You know, I was kind of a Rashad Penny guy. Obviously, Penny got hurt, so now Walker takes over in the backfield. Against a tough matchup, what I thought was a tough matchup against the Saints. He had a long run, scored, so that kind of boosted his production. But yeah, moving forward, Penny has a broken leg, probably out for the year. So you could go ahead and pick up Walker. Geno's got the offense moving, so the scoring opportunities will be there. Travis Homer's hurt. They still have DJ Dallas, who they use every once in a while, but Walker should get some work in the passing game. If he's getting Penny was getting around like 14 touches. If Walker can get in that range, 15 to 18 touches, he's definitely going to be worth a pick. Could finish as an RB2 for the rest of the year. Go ahead and scoop him up if he's available in your league. What do you guys think about Ken Walker?
I mean, he's a must-add. If he's not, I mean, I've seen some leagues that he still is available.
Yeah.
And I think he's a must-play. To be honest, I don't even think he's a must-add. I think he's a must-start.
Yeah, like he's available in one league I have. I think I put like $60 a fan. I think that might be.
I mean, I could see him going for almost. There's someone in some leagues, someone's going to use 100% of their budget on him.
Yeah.
Especially redraft and dynasty. Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, dynasty. He should be on a waiver wire in dynasty.
But I'm just saying, like, no matter what, he's going to be a must start.
I am a 0 FAAB until someone that's too good to be true out there just ends up on the market, and then just all Hundy. It'll be like week 8, right before the trade deadline. Everyone's thinking, hey, we're all depleted, and me who just never makes any moves. Let me get that guy. And then everyone's bitching about it in the chat. They're like, oh, I didn't even know you were paying attention to the waivers. And I'm like, eh.
Yep. We've been paying attention all year.
So Ken Walker's not worth it?
Oh, Ken Walker is definitely worth it. I just don't see him. I haven't seen him available in any of my leagues. I mean, I like my redrafts, my dynasties. He's gone. I mean, if I can get him, that's a guy where good luck even really trading, relatively cheap to get him at this point. I think it's all up from here. I think everyone's kind of completely done on Rashad, like they should have been, or not. Maybe not completely done. He had one good week, but they should be. It's Ben time. Rashad, I'm surprised he's still alive. Like he's always hurt. Like, always. I'm glad he's staying healthy, or I guess he was staying healthy. He just got hurt again. But no, Ken Walker, he's their RB1. He should have been out the gates. I get why not, but I'm glad it's finally here. And if you really believe in his long-term potential, pay now, because whatever you think he could be, the price is about to go up a lot more. It won't be cheap now, but it will go up. If you're a believer, go snag him now.
Well, Zach, you convinced me to up my fab bid, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and do that. I think I'm at 60. I'm gonna have to go a little higher just to make sure.
Those are rookie numbers. I'll be Matthew McConaughey. We'll be the Wolf of Wall Street at the table.
You need to put more than 60%.
Yeah.
All right.
All Hundy.
That's tough though, man.
I know. I don't know if I go. I totally get where Zach's going. Like, you got to be aggressive on a guy like that, because here's the thing: the biggest thing that we know besides the talent of Kenneth Walker is that Penny's gone for the year. It's not like he's a 4-week player. This is all year.
So my question to you guys though is, when you look at Penny and the work he was getting though, like are we sure that Walker's going to get that much more work, or are you guys convinced that he's just that much better than?
Isn't Rashad out for like 4 to 6 weeks now?
I thought he had a broken leg.
No, he's out for the year.
Oh,
Tibia.
it was his leg. I thought it was something else.
He fractured his tibia.
Yeah. No, see, I mean, I'm not worried about any of the other guys. Ken Walker's look good. I'm slapping all that fab down. Ken Walker, I feel like the 188 cash now. It's like it's my money and I want it now. That's me with Ken Walker.
All right, well, I'm gonna do that, man. Hopefully, I get him.
I believe in you. I'll keep my fingers crossed.
For sure. 1 second. Just trying to make sure I have this right. All right. So for my guy that I want to bring up, I'm bringing up wide receiver Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. To me, he is a must-add. I think he is not finally because he's a rookie. We always have to – I think we judge – I mean, Zach has said this numerous times about quarterbacks and other players, but he's brought it up about quarterbacks for sure. What's your rule of thumb for quarterbacks? 3 years, Zach?
Yeah, 3 years for QBs. And then, at least – I mean, kind of year 3 for all positions, you know?
Yeah.
But especially the QB is when I refuse to judge any earlier.
Yeah, so I wasn't judging on Alec Pierce this early, but he wasn't even rosterable in redraft at the beginning of the season. But in the last 2 weeks, so in weeks 4 and 5, he's leading the team in target share. But what I find funny is he's leading the league in target share with 20.8% of the targets in weeks 4 and 5. And that is with only having 46 and 58% snap. He was only on the field for that little of snaps, but he's still holding his own on the target share. I think with the rapport with Matt Ryan, I'm not saying there's no way I'm saying that he's going to he's not going to go and out-surpass freaking Michael Pittman. But the problem is they don't have that many weapons on the outside. So Michael Pittman is the one that's going to get double teamed. Michael Pittman is going to get guarded pretty tight in the red zone. To me, he's already passed, and they're not big names, but he's already passed Ashton Doolin and Paris Campbell to me as the WR2. They're going to keep feeding the ball to the running backs when Jonathan Taylor's healthy, when everyone's healthy. They're going to be throwing the ball to the tight ends. Mo Alley Cox is definitely a weapon for them. But I think for the rest of the year, I think Pierce is one of those guys that can be a decent bye-week replacement or injury replacement and could end up being like a WR3 type of guy throughout the year. I'm not saying he's going to be no WR1 or anything, but when we're looking at waiver wires in week 5, week 6, you're not looking at a guy to be your number 1 player. And if you are, you didn't draft well.
You're looking for guys right now that can fill in for injuries and or bye weeks. Yep. You're trying to plan ahead at this point. You should have been doing that from the beginning. Obviously, you know, there's obstacles thrown your way that you have to work through. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Yep. But that's what these waivers are for. Right now, fixing, patching all those holes, trying to plan ahead, try and get things back on course and move forward to hopefully win a title. Guys like Alec Pierce, if they're a wide receiver 3, that's league winning type stuff, because when other guys have injuries and they're playing, you know, a wide receiver 4, a wide receiver 5, someone that's just way down the list and he's going to produce like 4 fantasy points, but you've got the guy that's giving you a consistent 12, that'll make or break you. So I completely agree with Alec Pierce specifically, but in general, that philosophy right now.
Yeah, sure. I agree. In one of the leagues I'm in, I put in a claim for Alec Pierce just to have him, like you said, Zach, just to fill in for bye weeks. And then also, I mean, you stash up enough guys, you can package them in a trade for something bigger. So it's always a positive to get guys who can produce on your team. So, and Alec Pierce seems to be doing that. He has me worried about Michael Pittman a little bit with his production, but he's definitely worth the look.
Matt Ryan concerns me more about Michael Pittman than
Well,
Alec Pierce.
yeah, true. True. I agree with that.
That's a whole nother ball game. Anything you guys want to say, bring up before we close it out?
Oh, who y'all have in the Thursday night game?
Oh God,
One of the best Thursday. Well, I think somebody mentioned this on one of the social media sites. Like, Amazon should be giving us our money back for having to watch Colts and Broncos last week, and then Bears and Redskins this week. Like, it's
not Amazon's fault. There's that rule that says every team's got to have a freaking
Thursday.
Every team's got to have one primetime game, so they're not going to put them on Sunday or Monday. So they're going to put them on Amazon.
And sometimes the games that we think suck end up being pretty good, but I'm weary of this game coming up. But I think I might have to go with the Commanders.
Oh, I am after Wentz got called out by his coach.
I'm going with the Bears.
Are you?
They've won 2 already. I know one was a monsoon, but they've already been better than we anticipated. Not good, but they're winning. They're playing winning football at times. It might be ugly. The individual talent isn't that great. There's a lot to figure out and work on, but they clearly work together as a unit, and they've been scraping together some wins. So in a matchup like this, I think it'll go to the Bears.
Over under on Justin Fields passing attempts.
Oh my gosh.
The less the better.
So you want to hear a stat that I saw?
That
he has I think it's almost equal to or like within 1 or 2. He has the same amount of completions than Cooper Kupp has catches.
That's
but also Cooper Kupp is going to be buried by the end of this year because they're just working him so damn hard. I can't believe the workload that he's getting.
But what's crazy
not going to be.
No, it's not sustainable. And him and Allen Robinson have the exact same amount of red zone targets.
I don't. So we can't mention Allen Robinson's name ever again on this show. I'm done
starting him still. I have to.
I'm done with him.
In a deep league, I have to.
When I seen Ben Skoranek outproducing him, I was just.
I know.
This is it.
All right, so we had a great show. Throwing it over for sign-outs. Zach, take it away.
You can find me here every Tuesday and then every Sunday morning for the, Going for 2 pregame show. You can find me over there hosting that. I do plan to be bouncing around on other shows more often here again soon. Also hoping to, jump into some basketball podcast as the season's approaching. Go Bucks. But no, you can find me on Twitter at @TheBigPlowski, and it's always good to be back. I missed it after a few weeks off.
Yep.
Yeah, same for me, man. It feels like it's been a month since I was on the show, but you guys can find me here every Tuesday at jarsenal89 on Twitter. I have an article every week for Going for 2, cut them or keep them. Check that out most of the time drops on Wednesday. But yeah, just happy to be back. Basketball starting up. This is like one of the best times of the year.
Yeah, you can find me at Drop the Mic FF. I keep looking at the TV because I got the Dodgers on. I got my LA Kings starting tonight, first opening game. They're up 1-0. My buddy's at the game. Not very happy about that. You can find me here on Tuesday nights with Zach and Jordan. You can also find my work. I collab usually on the waiver wire article. I did write up Alec Pierce this week. That's one of the reasons I brought him up. You can also find me over on the Rum Boys Network on Friday nights, 9:00 Eastern. Crazy debauchery, just talking random sports stuff and football. But other than that, we had a great night. For Zach, for Jordan, have a good night.